Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Saturday, which means it's time for my weekly series, The Weekend Workshop. And I have got a video today for you that I could not find anywhere else. There's some articles about this topic, but I'd never seen a video. And the genesis for this came when Eric A. messaged me on MeWe back in February and sent me this picture right here, and it looks like a set of livestock clippers, for cutting their hair and stuff, that had been modified to run off of a Dewalt multi-tool, perhaps. I think that's what it looks like. But either way, it had been a Dewalt tool that had been modified to run hair clippers. One of the coolest things I'd ever seen, and my interest was absolutely piqued. And Eric promised to deliver. He said the next time he'd go to the Amish hardware store, he'd send me more pictures. And of course, it got me going, and I wanted to dig, and he definitely delivered. So this week, we're going to talk about the Amish's infatuation with Dewalt power tools, something I didn't know was even a thing. And maybe we could even give this the title, The Amish, the Original Preppers, and the Art of Making Do with What is Available. Alright guys, real quick before we dive in, if you haven't gone by, go by toolmantim.co, that's toolmantim.co, for everything there is to know about what I do. Links to the 5 pieces of video content I do a week. There's also an audio version called the Weekly Workshop. There's links there for that. And if you're looking for a solution to a problem, if you're looking for a product or a chemical or a tool or something that may solve a problem, check out the Today's Tools section. I've got a huge listing of solutions I've found that have either made me money or saved me money in my handyman business. So please check that out. Okay, so if you guys don't know, I don't live in Amish country. I'm not an expert on the Amish. I don't know a ton. I've never been to an Amish barn raising. So I had to share this story. This was just too interesting. It's been mulling around in the back of my brain since February. Eric sent me some more pictures. I went online and started doing some absolute digging. And it turns out that the Amish have a metric shit ton of contraptions, battery-powered contraptions that run off of Dewalt. Some use Milwaukee and Makita, but it seems to be Dewalt has been the thing that they have been into. Now, something I did not know was that the Amish use power tools. Call me ignorant, didn't know that. Apparently, they've been into them since at least the early 80s, and they've been going with them ever since. Now, you might say, but Tim, the Amish don't have electricity. Well, did some more reading, and it turns out that they don't want to be connected to the grid, because being tied into the system means that the system has control on them, and that the system can then exert influence on their separated lifestyle. So they like to keep themselves as independent as they can. So a lot of places, a lot of the houses have home phones, but they're in a shed out on the edge of their property, so that the phone and the influence of the outside world can't come into their home. They don't have TVs. The electricity they don't have in their home, so they don't have TV, they don't have internet, they don't have cell phones, all of that stuff. But they're totally fine with the concept of electricity. So, really cool thing, a lot of them have, at least up until recently, a lot of them had gas-powered generators, diesel-powered generators, and a lot of them actually got into pneumatic and air-powered products, which were so cool. Loved it. Anyway, really, really neat. Now, something else that I didn't know is that the Amish themselves have been adopting solar power like crazy. So they're not tied into the grid. They're independent, but they have a way to charge their batteries, to basically be self-sufficient and to generate their own power. As a matter of fact, in Ohio, I read an article earlier, 85% of Amish households have solar power, solar panels on the roof. Imagine if we had that in North America. That'd be pretty cool, hey? So the fact that they don't want to be tied into the outside world, they want no reliance on the outside power grid, and they have to generate all their own power on demand. So if they need power, they got to run their diesel generator, they got to run their solar panels, they got to run their gas-powered generators. So the fact that they could only get power on demand when they did it themselves meant that a natural outcome of that was to use batteries. And of course, they're into their carpentry and building things, so they got into battery-powered tools. And that being a restriction on them forced them to look around and think, wow, we have all of this stored energy in Dewalt batteries. How can we adopt it to day-to-day life and using it in household appliances, all kinds of cool, crazy contraptions, which you're going to see. So the fact that they allowed this constraint on themselves, that they cannot bring in AC power, they had to come up with ways to adopt the DC power of batteries, which I thought was too interesting, into some really cool things to help them out. Like I said, Eric A. sent me some pictures, some really cool stuff, and you're going to see the whole gamut of things. You're going to see homemade, you're going to see absolutely rigged up that you can't imagine how they worked. You're even going to, well, the last one's probably my favorite. It's a little bit of a twist on things. And then you're also going to see packaged products, stuff that are actually manufactured by a company that are then made to run off Dewalt tools, because the Amish have Dewalt batteries kicking around, and some enterprising corporations or companies or whatever decided to adopt some of their products and make them Dewalt compatible. So, without further ado, I want to present to you the 15 most interesting Dewalt contraptions that the Amish have come up with or they use. So let's dive right in. The first one, right there, it's called an Easy Fan, and it's just really cool. A lot of what they do, a lot of the stuff you're going to see are around the house kind of items. So of course they have no air conditioning, which would really suck in some of the places where they live, and they needed a way to move the air around. They have no way to plug into the wall, so this company here, KC Innovations, just made a nice little DC fan that runs directly off of Dewalt infrastructure, the batteries themselves, which I thought was really, really cool. So that was the first one. The sky's the limit. Dewalt should take some kind of notes from some of this and maybe offer it. They do have a shop fan, but this one looks a little cheaper. I don't know what's the price on that guy. $69.95. So it's way cheaper than the Dewalt one. That's kind of cool. So the next one, of course, are Dewalt clipper shears for livestock. That's the one I talked about. We used to sell them at the farm store where I lived, and you'll see the picture as I go. I'll bring one up for each one of these. Where I used to work at the UFA, the United Farmers of Alberta, and we sold them, and they were not cheap. So however they did this, whoever did it is pretty ingenious, but they come up with a way to put clippers on what appears to be an oscillating tool, I'm pretty sure. Maybe a grinder, I don't know. Either way, it's definitely not from the factory, and it obviously works. They needed a way to do it. They didn't want to do it by hand, so they figured out a way to power it by Dewalt power, which I thought was really cool. Now, this one was really neat. You see those late night infomercials, and I think they're at Walmart now, but those Ninja blenders, I don't even have one of them, but I thought it'd be really, really cool to have. So I guess the Amish like to make margaritas or daiquiris or pina coladas or something, and they had a need for Ninja blenders. And this thing, I don't know if it's for extra storage or extra power, but it actually has two slots at the bottom so that you can run, maybe it's just a high drain device, but either way, this is a serious heavy duty top of the line Ninja blender that they have modified to Dewalt battery. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, because this just blew me away, some of the cool stuff. I just thought it was so original, I couldn't not share it with you. So the next one is a hanging lantern, something you might hang in a tent, but this would be obviously something they'd read by or spend time by in the evenings when it's dark. And again, exact same thing. You'll see a lot of these adapters, they're like a DC, they slide on the bottom in one, and then they have a regular lamp screw-in plug on the other. And this one, again, is by KC Innovations. So somebody somewhere is this company. I got to do a little more research on them, but they're absolutely engineering these lights to run off Dewalt power, which I think is really, really cool. Entire light kit that's powered by either Dewalt or Milwaukee, and it can go on your scooters. So again, you can be safe running after dark. I just thought it was really neat. Now, this is one I would have loved to have when I was a kid. The next one is an ice cream maker. Apparently the Amish like ice cream too, which is kind of neat because I like ice cream. And this one, instead of the old hand crank, I don't know if you guys ever did that with the rock salt and the ice or the snow, and you crank it. This one here, and you'll see the pictures up as I go along, this one is just the exact same thing, heavy duty. I think this is made by, I don't even know the name of the company, but it's a 6-quart one, and it will literally do all the cranking for you, which Emmergood, that's the name of the company, and it's called an ice cream freezer. So again, They look around, they think, you know what we need? I'd love to have a way to power this. So they think outside the box, they figure out a way to adapt it to the constraints that are already on them. I think that's a permaculture principle. I'm sure I'm going to paraphrase this completely wrong, but the tighter the constraints, the more eloquent the design is. So in other words, the more situations and constraints you have on you, the better and the smarter your design has to be. So I thought that's really cool. Now the next one here is one that runs off an 18 volt. There's actually a couple different ones you'll see. They're night side table lamps, which are really cool. This one's the old 18 volt style. It almost looks like a trouble light, which is really cool. And the other one is just your typical reach up, shade, click it off so they can sit and read the Bible at night in bed or whatever whatever they're interested in. And that one takes the slide on 20 volt Dewalt platform, which is really kind of neat. Now the next one is another, this is more like a little compatible traveling fan, so they have that. And it, again, same thing, little tiny fold-up fan, and you just slide on. This one's got a 5 amp hour battery on the next. Now here's another cool one. Somebody made an adapter. I think I've even seen some of these on eBay before, but it slides onto the battery and then comes off with a pigtail to a regular 12 volt cigarette lighter adapter. So at this point, they're expanding their capabilities even more. So now anything that takes 12 or 24 volt power there, you can plug in with a Dewalt battery, which I don't know why Dewalt doesn't make that either. But these are just incredible. Like some of the things that they've come up with just blow me away. Now this one here is really cool. It's a battery pack power box, I guess they call it. Man, I can't talk tonight at all. But it's called an off-grid sewing machine power pack. And basically it's just a steel box. Looks like something that my grandfather would have had. Like it looks ancient, but it looks like it's built like a brick shithouse. I always love that. It's got a carry handle on top, and it's got 210 volt outlets on the side. And what goes along with that is the sewing machine and the serger. So I don't know if any of you guys are into doing hemming and seamstress work and things like that, but my mom always had a sewing machine and a serger because she always did alterations. And so these two are powered directly by Dewalt batteries, but the battery pack power box, which is so cool, is you could literally plug in anything that's 110 that would normally require grid power to run off of 2 Dewalt batteries. Now I don't know what the limit is on how much draw you can pull out of those, but how neat is that? I love it. Absolutely incredible. Now, this one here comes from a completely different company, but it was, again, really neat. It's a little 20 volt Dewalt powered udder sucker. So it's a cow milker, and this was actually advertised in a magazine. I found some cutouts of it on the internet, and it was just too ingenious not to use. So I had to put that in here, and it's called the Easy Power Pack. And let's see, the Ultimate Easy Milker and the Easy Power Pack. They come as two different things. You can buy them together, and it will milk a cow. Save your hands. Again, ingenious. It's almost like, in some ways, they're 100 years behind the times. When the Industrial Revolution, maybe we're going to go back a little further, but as all of a sudden people were looking around at the rivers and they see the water and they're like, we can build a water mill here, and then we can power this, and from that we can power this, and we can run an entire factory. And I'm sure the Amish, they sit around and they think, it'd be really nice to have power for this, or really nice to have power for that. How can we adapt that and make it work? Instead of just saying, nope, I can't, there's definitely a lesson to be found there. Okay, and this is the absolute last one. This one's a bit of a cheat, and it's absolutely not a joke whatsoever. So it is DeWalt, it is an Amish contraption, but it's not battery powered. It's an old-fashioned foot pedal powered, just like the old, they called treadle or trundle sewing machines. And it's looks like a 7 1/4 miter saw that has chains and gears, so it's stepped down so that as you pedal or push, it must increase the speed or the revolutions per minute to the point where they can actually cut something. And to me, it looks like something you'd see in the third world, in some nation, some impoverished nation where all they had was our trash that they threw out, and they found it and they had no way to power it, so they're like, let's put some pedals on it and some gears and some chain, just stuff that you don't even think about. This kind of mindset, guys, is absolutely lost on so many of us. and maybe not us as a community, but around the world. And this was a really fun video for me to put together. I absolutely loved it, but I wanted there to be a lesson in it at the end too. And to me, the idea is to look at what you have. You know, my dad, quick story, of course, when my dad was growing up, they had nothing. Once a year when they would not graduate, when they grade their school, they would get an ice cream. That was it. They had no money. So literally anything they needed around the farm, they had to come up with. So if they needed to build a little man door in a fence, they'd cut up an old recycled tire and they would nail the pieces of rubber to the fence boards, and they'd use that as a homemade hinge. If they needed a longer gate, they would put little 6-inch cross members and they'd cut down long skinny trees and they'd just slide them in there. And if they needed to let the cattle through, they'd slide them out, let them in, and slide them back. Literally had to pay for almost nothing. And we're so used to being so convenient. And I'm one to talk because look at all the Dewalt I have. I know, I get it. But this mindset is something that can take us all places, you know. Hopefully we never have to deal with a situation where we're forced to deal with this, but putting yourself in a place where you don't have any other option but to come up with the solutions yourself. And that could be, you know, working by yourself, working way away from somewhere when you don't have the time, the money, or the energy to go and do it. But just to think outside the box and not say no. Because of course, I'm sure there's lots of people in the Amish community who thought, I'd love to have that. Nah, it's too difficult, can't be done, whatever. And then who was the first person that thought, damn it, I need a pina colada, and I need a Ninja blender that's going to run off of two 20-volt Dewalt batteries. Like, who comes up with that, you know? But the one I was blown away with, of course, was the miter saw, and that is just too cool. But literally, look at it and allow your mind to wander and think, what could I absolutely come up with if I had no other option? If you couldn't go to the store tomorrow or for a month, what are the options you could come up with to feed your family out of your pantry? Or if you had no power and no access to any energy for a month or 2 months, what kind of ideas could you come up with? How incredible of a design could you come up with? Because, you know, if you don't get the lights on, you're going to be cold, you're going to be hungry, whatever it happens to be. Just thinking outside the box. So, guys, I had to share this with you. I thank Eric so much for this. It was one of the coolest things. I wasn't sure when or how I wanted to put this together, and it finally came together this weekend for me. Now, again, I said I am not an Amish expert by any means. So if I got anything wrong, please correct me in the comments. I'm sure somebody will, because I did my best to do my research, but if you guys live in Amish country, I'd love to hear more about it. Now, I would love to do a follow-up to this. So if there's somebody or some buddies out there who know way more about Amish technology than I do, and you have access to other things that you've seen or heard, I would love you to send me either links or pictures or even just descriptions or stories of either things you've seen or, more importantly, tools that have been modified to run off our favorite Dewalt cordless platform. You know. Anyway, I'd love to do a part 2 to this series. I had some extra ones, but they got a little repetitive. You know, there was a lot more lights and fans and things, but this were the 15 best that I could come up with. So if you've got other ones, please share them with me. And guys, that's pretty much it for this week. Like I said, toolmantim.co. Sign up to the monthly newsletter where I send you out a little something special every month. Just once, no spam, I promise. And if you guys get a little bit of extra quality and benefit out of these videos, please share them on social media for me. Whatever platform you prefer, just get the message out there so we can grow this community and we can share it together. So guys, that's it for me. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and what? Have a great week.